Okay, so we are going to look at this article, and here it talks about how Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, they talk about how, we need more people, I guess, to have more geniuses, and there's a picture of them, and I kind of agree with this. It makes sense, right? So, we all like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, highly accomplished, and arguably they're geniuses. In my view, they're both, amazing minds. And yeah, you have to admire what they've accomplished. And obviously they're clearly capable of organizing and getting things done and being able to, things that are complex. And they have an understanding of how these things happen. Now, so along with this article, what this article says is it says, I think in a lot of these endeavors, we're very like-minded, Bezos said on an episode of the Lex Friedman podcast. Now, that's a podcast that I do recommend. It's on here on YouTube. Released this week, he added, I don't really know Elon very well, but he said that he liked the idea of forming a friendship with him. Okay, let's get to what this is about. So I would love to see, a trillion humans living in the solar system. If we had a trillion humans, we would have at any given time 1,000 Mozarts and 1,000 Einsteins. Our solar system would be full of life and intelligence and energy. Now, I don't know if I would agree to that. If I would agree with that, because so I agree that, what is a Mozart and an Einstein, right? So it's true that, we have, what is intelligence, right? Because at the end of the day, Mozart was good at music, but is that really what it takes to create a genius? And what I would argue is, on the one hand, it makes sense, but on the other hand, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Think about it. We have countries with large populations, and it's true that for example, but just because you have more of something doesn't mean that it's good. How much of the culture does it matter? How much? So is it really about? And Jeff Bezos made that quote, I think. It's really about the culture itself, is it not? Yes, people are born with a natural aptitude and a natural intelligence, but then the idea behind it, you kind of have to, I feel like, I wonder if Mozart is a creation, is something that just happened, or is he a product of his culture? Is he a product of, he lived during a time during the Great the Enlightenment, and it was a time in history where they were promoting sort of industrialism, music, the arts. That there was a freedom, right? So these are things that are attached to it, and I think are relevant, perhaps, in thinking about what it means to be sort of successful, right? Or what it means, what was going on at the time during the Age of Enlightenment. And so I guess what I'm saying is that's the one thing. And then the other thing too, obviously Einstein, a great, scientist. It's different, Mozart and Einstein. I don't even know if it's the same. They're both obsessed. They both created, but it's obviously different. I think it's different. I think just because someone is obsessed about something doesn't mean that it's the same. And what and what is marketable is not necessarily what is what is at the best for our society in terms of what advances our society. And so, so basically what I'm saying is that I don't know that it's that simple, perhaps, because I think more likely, I think it matters more the culture. I actually think that we could create, surely, don't you think there are 1,000 Mozarts right now in America, right, in the U.S.? Surely, I think there'd be more than that. It's just that they don't have the opportunity. to showcase themselves. And I don't know that I even agree with, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't need that many, as sad as that sounds. And you're right that if we did put the right people in the right tasks, at the right jobs, we would be able to advance humanity. That's true. But there are people that are standing in the way of that and that don't necessarily want that, right? If these are high-paying jobs, right, like scientists, like, wouldn't you think that a mediocre scientist wouldn't really want to make way for great, even though, you would think that, yeah, you want the greatest, scientists, but at the same time, most people are mediocre, right? Or not as smart, right? Assuming. So they're not going to let them, or they're not going to want to give way, or in some cases they may not understand, right? Like the manager. How often do you hear about, people at the workplace and they're like, oh yeah, like, they're like, oh yeah, so, how often do you hear people say that you feel like you're smarter than the manager? Have you guys ever heard of that? The idea that, you're smarter than the boss, and then it makes you think, well, and that it's kind of that same concept where they're intimidated by you. If someone intelligent shows up, you kind of have to hide your intelligence because people are going to be intimidated by it. Because you're going to replace them. So there's actually an incentive in our society to not advance the Mozarts and the Einstein. Does that make sense? And so it's an interesting way of thinking about it, but when you think of it in those terms, you can come and you can see just how people you can see how it works out, and it might not even happen. Even if there were 1 trillion humans, what makes you think that they would want to be advanced? And so I guess that's just how life is. It's always the struggle. So it's really you have to push your way if you are truly a wise person, right? If you're truly a person of extraordinary intelligence, you kind of have to fight for it, just as Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk have done, right? They've both done this. Okay, and so they're a good example. But like, think about all the struggles. Didn't Elon Musk almost go bankrupt? And Jeff Bezos, he took. It's just. I guess it's just amazing that he was able to sort of create this amazing framework to revolutionize delivery and the logistics of products, and how that's really the contribution of both of these. They're geniuses in their own way for building the frameworks and the building a way of doing business that is more sort of advanced and super focused, than it was before, in a way that allowed it to beat out the competition. And then of course Elon Musk, his industry is amazing, right? He always talks about just outworking and how he likes to put the pedal to the metal, kind of. He's the kind of guy who likes to get things, to do a lot of things and get things done, and to do them in ways that sort of sacrifice, doing more, working more hours and doing more than the average company would do. And I guess you could say that's a sign of intellect. When you couple that with intellectualism, that can bring results. So, but like I said, going back to this statement, the trillions of humans, what do you think about Mozarts and Einsteins? And I would say that if our solar system had this, I would, I don't know. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't know. I'm not disagreeing with them. I'm just saying I don't know that would happen, because the society might not want that. They might not value that. And so you have to have a society that values that and is willing to understand that, hey, you know what? We are going to, as a society, benefit in a tantamount way if we let people who are intelligent and who I would argue are good-hearted also, and if we let them sort of take up positions where we can all succeed and we can all But that's, that takes a humility that I don't think all societies have, and not all societies value intelligence, unfortunately. Right? So I really feel a lot of countries, right, they probably don't all they value other things. They think other things are more important. And I mean, and that's not surprising, right? I mean, if most people aren't like Mozarts, they don't get it, Like that means most people don't understand what Mozart is, or why Mozart is even important. Well, okay, so let's keep going. So what companies like Blue Origin and SpaceX are doing, he said, is creating the space infrastructure upon which future generations can build greater things. Okay, I mean, that's one way of thinking about it. When I started Amazon, I didn't have to develop a payment system. It already existed. It was called a credit card. He said, I didn't have to develop a transportation system to deliver the packages. It already existed. It was called the Postal Service and Royal Mail and Deutsche Post. And so all this heavy lifting infrastructure was already in place, and I could stand on its shoulders. Now, I don't know. I mean, it's true what Jeff Bezos is saying here, but at the same time, I feel like he's not giving himself credit, because really what he's doing is completely different. Yes, he did all this, but then he didn't just create another sort of postal service or whatever. He actually went out and started building, first he started using the internet, and then he started building sort of warehouses that were different, and the way that they organized the products and the way that they shipped things was different, and they were able to they changed the way they did it. So I don't know, I disagree. I don't think he's just grabbing. I think he might not, perhaps Jeff Bezos is underestimating his contributions, because really he changed how the entire supply chain works, and how everything, his factories are completely different than anything that came before. And I would argue that of course, all of these things existing helped. I mean, yeah, okay, he didn't have to invent a credit card system. Like, it's true that it all kind of, technology works, but at the same time, his contribution, you could go as far back as, whoever invented fire or whatever. Like, I mean, how simplistic do you want to get, right? But at the same time, the way in which he organized things was different and worked better, and was something that most companies didn't think to do, because they didn't think about it the same way that Jeff Bezos did, and also they didn't have the same goals in mind that Jeff Bezos had, because Jeff Bezos wanted things to be sort of quicker and more efficient and more straightforward in ways that before that those were not necessarily emphasized. Like most companies, they don't want to revolutionize things. They want to keep things the same and just kind of make money doing the same thing. And it's risky to try something new. And so Jeff Bezos tried something new and succeeded. And that's why he was able to succeed, I think. He envisions people living in giant space stations would have a lot of advantages over planetary surfaces, including the ability to spin them to create normal gravity. He said most people would want to live near Earth and go there for vacation, the same way you might go to Yellowstone National Park. Now, I don't know what this has to do with, this is kind of already getting into space stuff. I could make a separate video about this if you guys like this idea, but what do you guys think about space stations? Ultimately, I mean, I don't know what it has to do with this, like the human population. I guess you kind of need these space stations, but I don't know that it makes sense. I mean, it seems a little like very expensive, and like it's pretty far out there. Like I get it, but I don't think we're anywhere near talking about, having these big space stations that can simulate gravity, and it's just very vulnerable, right? Like even planet Earth is not that vulnerable, not as vulnerable as a space station would be. And unfortunately, because of the way, cleaning and all that, like the Earth kind of cleans itself. It's kind of weird how, we talk, obviously we have to take care to not pollute things too much, but in general, the Earth somehow cleans itself. It doesn't even need cleaning, really. Like, because the animals and plants and, fungi, they kind of eat everything up. So really, it's weird how, like, human-made stuff, right, like buildings will decay, but the Earth doesn't really decay. It's kind of weird. So like, and what I'm saying is that, these space stations would probably get dirty over time. You'd have to clean them. A lot of maintenance. I mean, to maintain a modern like edifice, a modern building requires, you have to basically power wash it every night. Otherwise, like mold will grow on it. Things like that, especially if it's in a humid climate, like all kinds of maintenance. And then they have to constantly repaint, because the sun kind of weathers it down. And just, there's a lot of maintenance and money that goes into maintaining a building. So now we're kind of just going on here. So I guess here's Elon Musk, right? As for Musk, he's long stressed the need for humanity to become a multi-planet species, and he envisions SpaceX's Starship rockets transporting people between Earth and Mars, where a permanent human presence will be established. Okay, so Musk, he's also warned about an underpopulation crisis here on Earth. In the summer of 2022, he said the declining birth rates seen in many nations presented the biggest dangers civilization faces by far. I mean, it's true that we obviously need people, but at the same time, I mean, it's so weird because we're talking about like we have too many people, but we need more people. And it's like, I guess he means young people, right? And the thing is, it's like, I understand it, but I also think in the future they'll probably be able to create people more easily. Who knows, like test tube babies or whatever. I don't know. It is like, I guess I agree that I think the planet can hold more people, but at the same time, it's weird because our society doesn't. I mean, we barely take care of the people that are. It's like this weird little paradox that's happening because on the one hand, we're like, yeah, we need more people. But then on the other hand, you have so many people that are looking for jobs, right? And so many people that it's like, it feels like there are a lot of people who we can't accommodate for them. But then on the other hand, we still need, highly intelligent people. And then on the other hand, we have, on the other hand, we have people who are very intelligent, but then they're not being used. And then, and then on the other hand, we're asking, well, we want to find people who are intelligent, but yet, it just feels like our society is always like contradicting itself, and it makes it so that it's hard to do anything. Like, yeah, we are underpopulated in a way, but in a way we're also overpopulated because we can barely take care of the people we have. It's almost like our economy. I mean, it's good that our economy obviously is fluid and allows for people to, for the market to decide what jobs and are available. But at the same time, you can see how this creates an environment where people don't. It creates an environment where it just feels like there aren't enough. There's not enough for everybody, but at the same time we still want more, and it's like, yeah, it's always challenging. I guess it's important to have children and create the new generation, he told attendees. As simple as it sounds, if people do not have children, there is no new generation. So, interesting to read that. So going back to the question, I mean, if we had 1 trillion humans, we would have at any time 1,000 Mozarts. Like I said, okay, so let's just talk about this. Gosh, I feel like I could just talk about this for a long time, because I don't know if I agree with that, to be honest. Because, like I said, culture matters. Like perhaps I'm pretty sure we could have 1,000 Mozarts right now. We don't need 1 trillion humans. No, I mean, and I also think that there probably are lots of people who have extreme intelligence, but they don't necessarily, have access to the best schools, or they don't learn the right thing. They'll learn about Pokemon or something. They'll be like a super expert in another subject, but not get to use it in a way that it's marketable, right? So, and so what I'm saying, I don't know that I agree. And not only that, but you could also argue like maybe Mozart isn't even the pinnacle of humanity. Like, yeah, he's obviously, okay, Mozart was pretty good, right? He could compose things and obviously had a tremendous, the ability to create. Isn't that something that we value so much? To me, the ability to create is what defines sort of ultimate intelligence in my eyes. And that's my kind of thing. I could talk about that a little more if you all are interested. Leave a comment below. But like, to me, it feels like creativity is the ability to create things, something that wasn't there before. That's something we so value and something that we really like. And that's what Mozart did. I think that's really what they're alluding to when they're saying that we want Mozarts. We want people who can create new things and not just remake stuff or just copy things. Because at the end of the day, in order to advance, it requires doing things that are new. Because there are things that are they're uncharted territory. So you can't just get away with doing the same thing over and over. That's really what Jeff Bezos did with Amazon. He created something new. And I think he's underestimating himself when he says that, oh, well, I couldn't have done it. No, I disagree. I think he created something new. He is kind of a Mozart, if you will, of delivery, of product shipment, because people didn't think of it in that way before, and it was fragmented too. And to build an entire kind of company around that. And then what's interesting is that really when you think about Amazon, right, like what do they sell? They sell everything. It's not about the selling. It's not even about the product. He was literally just the shipping guy. At least that's my interpretation. I mean, how do you guys interpret, the Amazon story, right? Like to me, it's like he worked on the shipping first, and then everything else, it didn't even matter what it was. And in some ways, it's interesting. I feel like Amazon should probably, why don't they do more shipping for other companies maybe? Like that might help. I don't know. But anyway, and of course Elon Musk, the companies he's built and how quick, and he really values how quickly he's able to bring scientists together. And so, of course, both of these people have sort of an incentive. They want to have people who are who are very bright and can think in ways that are advanced. I think we can do better as a society to get people to promote intelligence. But like I said, because most people are not super intelligent, they get intimidated by intelligence, believe it or not. And it's a struggle for intelligent people to get noticed, because the world kind of, I don't know, it shouldn't be intimidating, because I think we all we all want to live better lives. At the end of the day, I would want someone that's super intelligent and graceful and understanding to be a leader, right? You would want that but I wish that was valued. And sometimes our society doesn't value that, right? Our society doesn't. It wants, whoever looks the best, or whoever, there's different characteristics, and not necessarily the wisest or the most compassionate or the most, things that, and isn't that a form of intelligence as well? Isn't that a sign of intelligence? That as a society, we've moved on from kind of the more primal and primitive ways of thinking to more sort of advanced. I mean, doesn't that matter? And so I look at it as, if we had 1 trillion humans, I don't know if it's a matter of I don't know if it's about the number of humans as much as it is about creating a culture that promotes intellect and sort of celebrates that, and also allows for humans to be comfortable with each other and be comfortable with the idea of advancements and the idea of caring for, the idea of creating a society where people can be the best that they can be. And a lot of times it's weird, because I feel like our society works against that sometimes, because people, at the end of the day, there's a certain level of humility that is required to make this happen, because think about Mozart, right? Mozart wasn't just following what other people were saying. Mozart created his own music, right? Created his own compositions. He wasn't following a trend. And so in the same way, whatever advancements are going to come and whatever sort of advanced intellectualism that arises among the population, it's going to be something new and something that it's going to be something new. And so it's not going to be what that means is that because it's going to be something new, you need to you need to allow that people to be able to create that newness. You have to create that space for the newness to be there. If we, I think a lot of times our leaders or whoever, the companies and sometimes they think they know how things should be, but maybe it's not. And so you kind of always, do the tried and true thing, because, I don't believe in just change for the sake of change. Some things are good, but then always leave a little space so that innovation can happen. And that innovation will happen if our society, all you have to do is just be open-minded. Just say, hey, you know what? This is how we do things, but you know what? Feel free to come up with something new. And then if a good idea comes along, it can be added. It doesn't necessarily have to replace everything. I'm not saying that we have to just change everything all the time, but we can replace, if there's something, a good idea is more likely to come about if we encourage people to, hey, you know what? Why don't you try doing something new? Try creating a new song. Try creating a new style, a new genre. Make something different. Create a new fashion trend. Create, whatever it is, try something new. And all of a sudden that will really, if it gets people to, focus all of their mental and to some extent physical, things that require dexterity, physical skills, to use them in ways that are new, and all of a sudden that can bring about I think what as our society, what we're looking for. So yeah, that newness is that creativity, I guess. It's another way of saying creativity. It has value, and I believe that is what will make humans have the largest level of potential. The largest, the most, we can accomplish so much as a species if we're able to advance in this way, and we're able to promote sort of that creativity. And I actually do think that we could have 1,000 Mozarts now if we, as a society, or perhaps even more. It might be more common than we might think. I think it's being underutilized. People are not at their fullest potential right now. I really think that. And sometimes a lot of it is because we tell people, hey, you know what, this is how you need to live, or this is how we do things, without giving people the opportunity to, hey, maybe the things that we're studying in school, maybe the subjects that we're studying in school, maybe the way that we're learning, maybe those things are stopping them from being creative. How do we know that we're not hindering that? And then that it wouldn't make a difference if we had 1 trillion more people, as this title states, right? That it wouldn't make a difference, because it wouldn't make a difference if we don't have the space for people to do, because we might be doing things in a way that's not as efficient as possible. So maybe the way we do things now, or it might not, I'm not saying we have to change everything, but I'm saying there could be some elements of our school system or whatever it is, of our, of general understanding, ways of thinking about things that are not necessarily, it doesn't have to be that way. Life is what you make of it. So it doesn't have to be that way. It could be some other way. And by doing that, it allows us to realize, well, we need to do something else. In other words, it's our kids, are growing up, right? Kids and people are learning, young adults especially, right? They're learning, but what's the first thing they do? They get bombarded with kind of, well, this is how we do things. This is how, this is how society, this is how, and then eventually they start learning. It's natural for young people to want to get inspiration from others. And so they get inspiration, but then a lot of the inspiration ends up being some other person telling them, well, this is how it should be. And then another person says, oh, this is how it should be. And then so a lot of young people, they just kind of take that in, and then they're like, okay, I guess this is how it is. They kind of go for whatever they hear. And my challenge, or I guess what I'm saying is, perhaps I would challenge young people and everyone really to consider, hey, you know what? Maybe there's more than what's already out there. We're so used to, we love Google. I love Google. I love YouTube. But is everything on Google and YouTube? Maybe there are some things that are being unsaid. Not everything is popular. Not everything that's popular necessarily is the ultimate of what could be. There could be way more out there, and that's going to be discovered by the Mozarts and the Einsteins of this world, it's going to come through creativity. It's things that haven't been said before. There are so many things that have not been said before. So many books that haven't been written before, of concepts that haven't been thought about, and movies of stories that we've never heard of. And yet, but yet we still keep going back to remakes, and right, we keep going back to stories that we're familiar with instead of trying to see what the possibilities could be. Things that we haven't thought about before, things that have never been thought about, things that might be completely different than what we're thinking right now. And so that requires a level of humility and understanding that, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't know everything. And maybe that's the first step in becoming more like Mozart and Einstein, and becoming sort of the ultimate humans that are thoughtful and creative. So what do you all think? Subscribe and comment. And what do you all think about this?